at least minimum 5 times. I have to, because it's so deep and practical, right? And I want to get to the practical part. So in order for me to get real deep into it, I got to read a couple of times. So what that means is we all know what karma is, right? So, you know, everything we do, every choice we make, so even subconsciously, have an effect on everything we're going to face. So when it comes to karmic debts, nothing goes unpaid. So what that means is, and the book talked about 3 ways to pay the debt. One is one is what most people do because they're not consciously aware of the decision they made 15, 20, 30 years ago, that the situation they're living in because of those unconscious decision that they made. So the situation you're in right now, no matter what it is, it's all based on the decision you make thinking wise, right? Whether it's a physical decision, when it's a decision you need to make, or even just thinking about a decision, or even thinking about something that happened to you. How did you think about it? And there's 2 ways to think about it. The book always say, good or bad, positive or negative. So that's one way. One way is you're gonna pay that debt. So the way we pay that debt is the way we live our life. And if you live your life and you're not happy with that life, it's because you've been paying that debt because you're so not consciously aware of the decision you'll be making. I'm not sure if it's making sense. So the second way is, let me talk about the third way now, because I'll probably remember the second way. The second way now is what we here, for the most part, trying to do is to live a fulfillment life. And I know we had discussion earlier, some of us want wealth, some of us want to travel. In order to really get to that place, we have to really tap into our subconsciousness. And one of the way is meditate, pause, be in the moment, stay in the moment, so you can be, so those energy can come to you and you can be more creative and to move into the path that you want to, right? I can't remember the second way, help me out, Camille, or the other readers, but there's 3 ways to pay the debt. So basically, you're gonna pay the debt. So this is the reason why we really have to pick and choose how we're thinking about things. We all know by now that, negative thought process bring negative things. Even though people might get you upset, you have a choice to be upset or to stay upset or to get over it. If you take long to get over that, guess what? That karmic death later on is going to take longer to get rid of. Or the consequences is going to take longer to get rid of. That's what that meant. I hope it was not long-winded, but that's what I meant when I said that.
Well, you've been waiting to share that since like 10 o'clock this morning. So I already know, so it's totally fine. And we're going to talk more about it because that was huge. That's like really the crux of the chapter. But basically what Oliver's talking about is that how you pay for your past karma. For your past karma, one of 3 ways. One is you suffer. You continue to suffer from your past karma, or you transmute or transform. Transmute or transform, that's number 2, the past karma. And number 3 is you transcend the past karma.
That's it, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so let's go on to Mark. I'm hoping that Danielle is joining us because I want to get her feedback as well. But Mark, I'm going to read your summary and then if you want to elaborate on it.
Okay.
Okay, so Mark said, to summarize, this chapter is about karma and the simultaneous cause and effect of our actions, good or bad. He mentions that we need to make conscious choices if we want to create happiness in our lives. Do you care to elaborate, Mark, or is that sufficient summary for you?
I think Oliver's kind of captured it, but it's really cause and effect, and a lot of the things, the actions that you take, and you know, what that the reaction is, and basically it's, you know, a reaction. You know, it's pretty instantaneous. That's what he was talking about, that there always is a reaction. And when we think of karma, he mentioned that it's normally in a negative light, where we would do something, and, you know, if you do something bad to somebody, then something's going to come back around. But it also happens the opposite. So if you do good, you know, there's also, you know, good reactions, or things that come back to you. So that's about basically it.
Thank you. The other thing that stood out to me is that when I always hear karma, the first saying that comes to mind is what goes around comes around. That's the first thing I think of karma, right? But really, he's not even talking about how you treat others. He's even talking about how you treat yourself, like the actions you make that impact yourself, not just really about actions that you take on somebody else. He's not even focused on that. He's more so focused on how you treat yourself. So my summary, and if Danielle's not back in time, we'll just circle back when she's back on camera. But my summary here, I said that we make cause and effect choices, and he calls that karmic episodes, not just negative choices, just any choice. It's called a karmic episode. And these cause effect choices are conscious or unconscious, as Oliver said. Pay attention to your choices and consciously choose the option that brings happiness and comfort. So it seems as though the three of us got the similar message from the chapter. Okay, Danielle is back. Are you ready, Danielle?
I'm ready.
Okay, so I'm going to read your summary, and then if you think it's sufficient, that's fine, and we'll move on, or if you want to elaborate. Okay, so Danielle's summary is, what you give is what you get. In that, the equivalent action or feeling will be what you receive in your life based on your actions that you've given out. This is why it's important to consider the choices we make before we make them, so that we can create positive experiences. Is that sufficient, Danielle, or you want to elaborate?
Actually, yeah, that's pretty sufficient.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it seems as though we all got similar.
I was thinking how I could say more, but yeah.
Yeah, that sums it up very nicely. Okay, so let's circle back now. I asked everyone, all the readers, the four of us, to plug in 2 lessons or takeaways from the chapter, The Law of Karma. And so I'll start again, going back to Oliver, then Mark, then Danielle, and then myself. So Oliver's 2 takeaways was, number 1, conditioned reflex, and number 2, spontaneous right action. Can you explain those 2, Oliver?
Oh, conditioned reflex.
Yes.
Let me just get out of my thought. Conditioned reflex is when we say certain things happen to us. Things always happen to us, whether it's physical or we're just thinking about stuff. Somebody might say something to you and really irritate you. The way we react to that spontaneously, it's very, very important. So, and that gonna cause some sort of payback later on, just like everything we were saying, right? And the reason why really this hit me, because I really never thought you can purposely tap into your subconsciousness like this. But if you take a pause in that spontaneous reaction and to any stimulus, they call talking about stimulus or stimuli, you react to a stimuli, you react to something spontaneously, and that becomes who we are. And that's not who we are. So if you take a moment and think, split second, think, just before you react, then you're going to you're going to save yourself a whole lot of distress later on, because you're going to have to pay back those debts, right? It's karma, right? So that's what that conditioned reflex is talking about.
Oliver, you also put on there spontaneous right action.
Yes. So spontaneous right action is almost the same thing, the right action in the right moment at the right time. So, and we're not talking about being perfect. I don't want us to think that we have to be perfect. So once you make those spontaneous right action, you always, there's only two ways to go about it, right or wrong. We all know that. But we're always trying, or we should always try to do and say the right things, because we know later on it's going to come back and haunt us, right? So let's not put ourselves in that situation later on. So spontaneously in that moment, there's certain things that I don't remember the page, but there's certain question we can ask ourselves in that moment. If I say this, for example, what's the outcome that's going to happen? And the book talks about our heart. Your heart knows. Even that you may not really have the right answer. You go by your feeling, the feeling of your heart. And oh my gosh, you talk about, I can't even get into how you talk about the heart, because we had a different, I don't know about you guys, but I had a different concept or the way the heart works when it comes to feelings. It's totally different. And so the way you ask yourself a question and you can answer that, you will always going to answer that, because you're going to respond based on how your heart makes you feel. And then you make the right action. So spontaneous right action is almost kind of similar with conditioned reflex.
Thank you, Oliver. I'm going to go to Mark now, his 2 takeaways from chapter 3, the law of karma. Number 1, all actions are karmic episodes. And number 2, we have conditioned, predictable responses, and we can improve our lives if we consciously take the time to think about the choice we're making. Mark?
Right. So I found it very interesting that he was speaking toward, a lot of the things, everyone has triggers, right? And we all have triggers, things that happen that trigger us to, respond in a certain way. Even though we think those are just unconscious decisions that you just it happens, right? We can actually convert those to conscious choices. So, I'm going to use Camille as an example, but she may say something to me that would trigger me to have a specific response, right? I don't always have to respond that way, right? Regardless of what she says, I could, if I am consciously making a decision to react, I can react in a different way. And I think he gives a couple of examples that I don't have ready right now, but basically, regardless of whether it's good or bad, if we step out of our shell and think about things that are happening, or, as you are making decisions, we make millions and millions of decisions and infinite decisions all throughout the day, just continuously, do I go right? Do I go left? Do I go to the kitchen? Do I go downstairs? Do I go to sleep? Do I, and more than that, right? But a lot of the things that are happening, if we take some time to kind of step back and think consciously to every reaction that we are making to things that are happening, you have control. So you can keep things in a positive light if you choose to. And that was the second point. I can't remember the first point that I put in there. But I found that part was pretty interesting, and it makes me think a little bit more to just become a better person, right? I think each one of these chapters is helping me to develop my own self, to start thinking about how to treat others, how to move forward and be positive and try to get the things that I want out of life.
Mark, your first point you put on there, if you want to talk about it, you said all actions are karmic episodes.
Yeah. Let me come back to that.
Okay, no problem.
Yeah.
Okay, Danielle, I'm going on to your 2 takeaways. Ask myself the 2 questions before making a decision. That's number 1 for Danielle. Number 2 is learning more about karmic debt and how to clear it. Care to elaborate?
Yeah, so the conscious choice in asking those questions before making certain choices, that stood out to me because, yeah, just kind of like what Mark was saying with the conditioned responses, you can choose. So like my example for myself would be like when my daughter does something to really irritate me or something that would normally irritate me, and I choose a more calm approach as opposed to getting upset or irritated. I consciously look at it before I respond now, as opposed to just responding, because then I notice the difference in one, her reaction, to the change for the next time. It's usually more peaceful if I respond more peacefully. And then learning more about karmic debt, that I'm really like, I'm new to it in the last couple years. Like I've heard the phrase before. So when Deepak was speaking about how to clear it, I'm still trying to figure that out, especially the first one, on how to clear it. But one thing I do know is that, like it said, what you reap, what you sow. So if I'm trying to make a better action from a different action I had before, paying it forward and using even that experience as a way to, transform it into something positive and do something positive with it, like taking the pain into purpose, changing the, ignorance into non-ignorance, that kind of thing.
Thank you, Danielle. And the 2 questions Danielle is referring to, he gives you practical steps in the book. Whenever you have a choice to make, ask yourself 2 questions. What are the consequences of this choice that I'm making? And will this choice bring fulfillment and happiness to me, and also to those who are affected by this choice? Go ahead, Danielle.
I have another point. Okay, in the chapter it said, if yes, do it. If no, don't do it. Now, I don't know, I kind of feel there's a little bit of a condition to that, because I feel like some of the choices that we make may be good for us, may not necessarily mean happy and roses for the next person. But I think the important part in that is to consider your delivery even of your choice. If you are saying something to somebody that isn't going to, it's not going to go over too well. The other person is going to have an emotional response that may make them upset, but it's the right choice for you. Just being compassionate to the other person, understanding that they have their feelings and they have the right to have their feelings about what you're saying. I wrote it down. Hold on. Yeah, I believe that when you have compassion and respect for others' feelings based on the choice you make, that can make the difference between a toxic follow-up to that or a more peaceful path going forward. And it might take some time for it to get there, but I believe that if you approach it with a compassion type of attitude towards the person and how they feel, even though you have to make a decision that might not be favorable to them, it will help, smooth that over as things go. That's how I feel about it. Keeps the karma clear.
Yes. Now remember, this book is called The 7 Spiritual Laws of Success. Okay, he's giving you practical steps to being a happy person, successful person. It has nothing to do with religion. That's the other thing that I should be saying every time we start these discussions. because this is not a space where we discuss religions, because people may vary in that way. This is more about spirituality. But just to add to what Danielle is saying is that I guess the point he's trying to make here, this I'm just reading it from his book, is by becoming a conscious choice maker, you begin to generate actions that are evolutionary for you and for those that are around you. And that's all you need to do. As long as karma is evolutionary for both the self and everyone affected by the self, then the fruit of karma will be happiness and success. So that's the point of being aware of your choices. It's getting you to that point where you can evolve as a human being. You can grow, improve, change, become the best version of yourself. I'm going to read my two takeaways, which was number one, like Oliver mentioned at the beginning, the ways you can deal with past karma is by debt, transforming, or transcending. And then number two for me is spirit is the circulation of karma, memory, and desire. Because he talks about that as a constant, that is the spirit. It's a constant circulation of karma, memory, and desire. And from that desire, you now take another action, which is the definition of karma, right? You take another action, that action is fulfilling, you remember that action, and then it influences your desire once again. And it's just, that's the cyclical nature of the spirit. Those are my two takeaways. So that's what I asked the readers to submit in advance yesterday by 5 p.m. to submit their takeaways and their summary. But I want to open it up now to everybody else. Just hearing this conversation, did anything standing out to you? Do you have any experience with karma? What do you know about karma? How are you feeling? What are your thoughts on what we're discussing tonight? Anybody? So that's who was that?
Before you open up, Camille, before Nadia, because I know Daniel said when it comes to the karmic debts, because this one is very deep too, and yeah, it's really, really deep, and it's very tricky because there's three ways to pay it. Where you just to clarify certain things that you're not clear on, Danielle. There's three ways to pay our debt, right? One, if you don't make a choice, it's almost if you don't make a choice, it's a choice you're not making by not making that choice, right? So if you're not aware of it, it's also an unconscious choice you made because you're not aware of it. And because you're not aware of it, then the book says you'll suffer. That means you just live your life and, I want to be a prime minister. You'll never get a chance to be a prime minister. You'll probably be a doctor, right? Let's say that. But you'll never live your full life, exactly what you desire, because you weren't aware of the subconsciousness that you need to, the karmic debt you need to pay. That's number one. That's why you'll suffer. That's why some of us struggle, right? Suffer is a very strong word, but some of us struggle. Now, the second part is transmute. How do you transmute your debt, which I think these are the two things we should focus on, the second and the third, is three things. Ask yourself these three things. How can I make this useful to me and others? And number two is, how can I learn from this? And third one is, what's here for me to fear? What is the universe telling me right now? So everything that's happened is gonna be, there's choices, these three things you have to really answer to and try to figure out. Just like we sometimes, something happened to us and say, what is this? What's going on here? What is this telling me? What's happening here? And sometimes we say that to ourselves, which is the good direction, but sometimes we get caught up and we still go ahead and still do what we need to do, not really tapping into that subconsciousness and adhere to that. Now, the third one that I was really strongly leaning towards is you wash it off. It's transcend. You wash it off. Wash it off means, you start with meditation, stay in the moment, and be consciously aware of the conscious choices you're making. And once you start doing that, and it doesn't happen once in a while, right? You got the book says it's like washing a dirty cloth. You keep washing it, keep washing it, keep washing it, and every time you wash it, you wash a little bit away at a time. Yes, do the work exactly. So you have to consciously keep doing that work. Once you consciously keep doing that work, just by you consciously aware, you eliminate the first one already. That's it. Right now you start doing the work. Now you can move to what you desire.
Thanks, Oliver.
Yeah.
Now it just made the check mark go off in my head, like, yes, I get it now.
Yeah.
It's all of that tied in. Learning the lesson, doing the work so that you could do better next time is a way
Correct.
to help clear it. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Anyone else? Nadia, you put a comment in the Zoom chat. Would you care to elaborate? What does that mean?
Yeah, so as Danielle was giving her perspective, it made me think of the saying that we have from back home. I don't know if anybody else is familiar with it. But basically, when you're choosing your actions, you do things that you're doing with genuine pleasure, right? So you don't do something good for someone, just to do it or to make them feel bad that you've now done something for them. You don't do it and talk about it to other people. You don't do it out of no kind of malice or spite or anything. You do it from a place of pleasure and love, and that's your contribution. And if you can't feel like if that's why you're doing it, don't do it at all. So that's yeah, it just reminded me of that old saying from home.
What's the saying, Nadia? Read it
Oh,
out.
if you're going to do, don't complain. If you're going to complain, don't do. Of course, more colloquial, but that's like standard English.
Any other non-readers care to chime in? Ingrid O, you feel comfortable to unmute and just share what you are thinking?
Well, I had said that you should do things with a good heart. I had an incident the other day where I unfortunately went into work when I wasn't supposed to. And the person didn't show up until late. And I stuck around to make sure she actually got there, but she hadn't got there after 20 minutes. So I decided, as a good employee, to go up and do the work. I'm here, I might as well do something. And then when I came back down, I get cussed out because why are you doing my work? Like, maybe you missed your bus, and I said, okay, you know what, let me do the work, let her relax and get calmed down before she comes up to the floor and rushes to do all the work. So I went up and did it. And anyways, I did it with a good heart, and that's all that matters. In my heart, I knew the reason why I did it. And then my manager decided to tell me to apologize to her. And I'm still on the verge of writing my manager a lovely letter to tell her that I don't think I should apologize, because the person got upset at me and acted out of the code of conduct and got mad at me. So I think I deserve a written apology, not even a
Ready to chime in too. This is a perfect example, and readers and anyone can assist me in this too. And obviously, this is going to go against your belief, Ingrid, but this is a perfect example. Now, let me just get it straight. You're going to work you weren't supposed to, correct?
Yes,
Yeah.
I wasn't supposed to go to work.
Okay, it happened to all of us. It happened to me too.
Mhm.
Okay. So I want you to come from that perspective. And it doesn't matter. Yes, you do it from your good of your heart. And I love you use that word heart. Because you felt the need and you just do it from your good of your heart, and don't let that stop you from doing whatever you need to do moving forward. Now the lady got upset. So when you're making choices, the choice is not only for you. If you know the lady got upset, no matter what, it's good or bad, she got upset. No, you are, I don't know, a better word, or trying to feel for a better word, you're disturbing something over here, right? Your heart is good, but because your action disturbing something over here, we're talking about karma, right? So that's not karma. Now you going back
I
now.
told her I would finish the work and
Yeah.
just relax. That's
Yeah,
what I
got
told
it.
her. Relax, don't worry about it. I'll do the work and you go and calm down.
Yeah,
Basically.
got it. For sure, for sure. That's not a problem.
Yeah.
Now, where I want you now to my perspective, based on what we're talking about, is to shift that mind a little bit to say, okay, now she was disturbed. And that disturbance is gonna come back somehow. Now, you know, for you to pay that now, is not to go against your manager, because your manager now, the manager is just trying to be a manager. They don't have the deeper understanding of what's happening, right? No, it's up to you now. Everything is up to you now in terms of, I would say, write the apology letter exactly how they want it, because now you're paying your dues.
I already talked to her, Oliver, but the outbreak that she did in front of the manager and in front of patients and in front of other colleagues, that is my thing.
And they want you to apologize because that whole commotion happened?
I think that's why my manager asked me to apologize.
Okay, there's nothing wrong with that. Apologize.
I did apologize.
Okay.
But the outburst that she made in front of everybody was what really disrupted my heart.
Oh, that yeah, so that shouldn't be. Now, I want you to kind of take a step back and just understand the situation. That's us in the moment. It's gonna disrupt you in the moment. Just take a step back, because now it's not for nobody, it's for you now. You try to create your peace and what you need or what you desire moving forward. It's all you know. You're in a lane, right? So you have to do things now that it may not make sense now, but later on you're gonna see the beautiful karma plays out.
Yes, yes. So that coming to that point. Sorry, Mark. I know, but
That's
coming
okay.
to that point, a few days later, other people showed up late for work. Other people didn't come in. Like last week, a girl was supposed to come into work at 6 o'clock. She didn't even show up. She's coming from Curtis. So there's the karma. And
That's what I'm saying.
this is where I know what karma is all about.
Yeah.
Right. So
Go
got
ahead,
it.
Mark. Yeah. Thank you for listening.
No, I'm just saying, I mean, this book to me is just enlightening me in different ways. And, you know, similar situations to that have occurred to me in the past couple of days, Ingrid. It's different, but, you know, similar. And how do I react to somebody who's coming to me in a negative light? Like, and how would I have reacted prior to being enlightened by, you know, Deepak and some other, you know, just things that we're experiencing now. One of the things that he says, and I think I said this last week, was, you know, when somebody comes at you like in a similar light to what happened to you, Ingrid, you bless them. Just, you know what? Don't let that stress you, right? I mean, the takeaway, you've got to, and I can't tell you exactly what to do, but, you know, from my perspective, it's wish everyone well, you bless them, and you move on. And that's not holding heavy in your heart, right? You know you did the right thing. You tried to help, and that's what you were trying to do. And if you had that opportunity, would you do it again? I don't know. I don't know how you would react to it, but if you felt like you were doing the right thing, then you continue on.
Yeah, because I knew that it was my responsibility. That shift was mine to begin with.
Mhm.
That is my responsibility. And if a person does not show up at my other job, they would call you and say, hey, you know, you switched with so-and-so. Say I switched with Mark and Mark didn't show up to the job. What happened? Right? I thought you guys switched. Well, yes, we did, but it's still the onus still lies on you as being that is the shift you were assigned to do.
Yeah.
That's how it's looked at as a manager.
I'm just going to take a second and just read like 2 short paragraphs. And this is from this chapter that says, you and I are essentially infinite choice makers. In every moment of our existence, we are in a field of all possibilities where we have access to an infinity of choices. Some of these choices are made consciously, while others are made unconsciously. The best way to understand and maximize the use of karmic law is to become consciously aware of the choices we make in every moment. This is what I was mentioning earlier. Whether you like it or not, everything that is happening at this moment is a result of the choices you've made in the past. Unfortunately, a lot of us make choices unconsciously, and therefore we don't think they are choices, and yet they are. If I were to insult you, you would most likely make the choice of being offended. If I were to pay you a compliment, you would most likely make the choice of being pleased or flattered. But think about it, it's still a choice. If I could offend you, I could offend you and could insult you, and you could make the choice of not being offended. I could pay you a compliment and you could make the choice of not letting that flatter you either. And that's kind of where I'm going with this, is just, you know, a lot of the things that we do and how we react to situations, we've got to try to step back and consciously make a decision on what is the best choice for me. How do I react to this?
Just to add to that, Mark, like what Oliver is saying, it's not easy to do. We're not perfect. It's really tough because we are very conditioned with our responses from birth. We're conditioned. But I think the key here is to start, the practical step we can take now is just make a conscious effort to recognize your actions. That's step number 1. If you're there already, that's like, you're already like way ahead than most. Just being aware. And the other thing too, I wanted to remind everybody that karma is not necessarily negative, right? Karma doesn't know what's bad and what's good. It's just cause and effect. That's all that karma is. It's cause and effect. Could be good, could be bad. But it's karma doesn't choose. It's
us that put emotions on
yeah. Karma is just cause and effect. That's it. With no emotions attached. Like Oliver saying, right? We put the emotions on it. But if there's something negative that comes your way as a result of your action, then there are 3 ways to deal with it. One is you can wallow in it, in other words, suffer and not move past it, right? Number 2 is you can transmute it. So in other words, take that negative and turn it to a positive. Or number 3 is you can just totally let it go. Let go of it, forgive it, move on, heal, keep going forward. Those are the 3 ways whenever you encounter a negative karma.
Can I give you an example?
Yeah, one more thing, Oliver, I want to say. I think the key here is to strategize your karma. Like that's, for me, the takeaway is that we can actually manipulate what we get, you know, what comes our way, what we receive. We can actually manipulate it as long as when we're aware of it, now all of a sudden we can control it. Go ahead, Oliver.
Yeah, I want to give a real example of what happened to me in the workplace. 2 incidents with one of the top managers. And I was just a leader, not a manager, but a leader in my department at the time. And in front of so many people, at least 15 people, he said to me, you're the worst person in this department. And because I know my emotions, right? I said to him, I did this literally. Oh my gosh, why didn't you tell me earlier? So I can work on the things that I need to work on. And he was shocked. He walked away. He didn't like that. And not even a week later, he tried to embarrass me in front of employees and guests, which is the worst thing you can do. And he wanted to get me to react. This is because somebody told me he wanted to get me to react. He was threatened by me, just so you know. He wanted to get me to react. And I was really, really upset. I couldn't control my emotions, but he couldn't see that. He'd never seen my emotions. I walked
And you
away.
did control it, Oliver.
Correct. I walked away and I did an assignment that wasn't immediate. The immediate assignment that I need to work on, I couldn't because he was in that space. I walked away and I worked on another assignment. And I was supposed to get in trouble for that, for even doing that. And when I went to the HR the next day, the HR director said to me, why didn't you come to us the same day? That's the protocol, right? Because I know the protocol. And I said to HR, I said, listen, do you understand Patois? She said, what does that have to do with anything? I said, if I would have come to you the same day, the only thing I knew how to speak is Patois. She was looking at me. She did a little bit of chuckle. She says, I said, I'm dead serious. If I came to you that same day, 5, 6 hours, 8 hours later, the same day, I couldn't even speak English, so you not understand me. I went home, I talked to my wife, and I told my wife that I'm gonna get fired tomorrow. I'm just gonna talk to HR. I set things up at home, and I did. I set things at home, now I'm coming to talk to you. And long story short, they put him on probation. He was there for like 20 years. This is a top manager. They put him on probation for 1 week, and they let him go. Even the GM came to me, and I told the GM, because Jim and I were good friends, and I said, listen, I'm about to lose my job. It doesn't really matter. Respect is respect. You don't talk to me a certain way. And I know he's your top manager, but it's either him go or I go. You decide. Oh yeah, and they let him go. So just talk about you control your emotion. You know how hard that is for me to do. Very hard. But it like Camille said, it's awareness. I've been practicing awareness before that, obviously, but awareness is key, and awareness of your conscious, your emotions, especially like me, who have really high emotions. Some of my friends are shocked. They're saying that, something's wrong with me. Why I didn't do certain things to him or whatever, or cuss him out or whatever. But at the end of the day, all of them came to me and praised me. Oh, amazing. I kept my composure, because a lot of people really didn't like what he did to me, and he was gone.
So I have another question for anybody here who wants to tackle this idea. Okay, so when he's talking about being conscious of your choices and choosing a different way to respond and strategizing the actions that you put forth so that it comes back to you in a positive way, how does this relate to children, right? So for the most part, children, their reactions are, their karma is unconscious for the most part, right? So in a situation where they're not capable yet to be aware of their every decision, every choice that they make. And now they go to school and they get bullied. And now they're getting some negative karma their way, right? They're being bullied. So how would we say that, like, how do they play a role in that karma? Are they playing a role in that karma? If they're being bullied, is it a result of something, an action that they did?
I guess it depends on the situation and the child. I could kind of speak to that a bit, because there was a kid who was kind of getting on me at school, and I had to like bring it to her in such a way where it's like, well, remember the time when you da 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 da? Okay, now think about it. Now this person is doing something very similar to what you had done. Does it feel nice? No, it doesn't feel very nice. So you have to think about now how you treat others. So it kind of led to this learning situation or a teachable moment I could give her.
Yeah, because Deepak
So
Chopra is not talking, he's not talking about adults. He's just talking about people in general. He doesn't say, I'm speaking strictly to adults.
I think as the kids get older, then they start to think about the choices that they make. And then I think too, as parents, it's part of our job as their parent to help them understand that their choices have consequences. This is something I always tell Mia, that the choices you make today have consequences tomorrow. What you do today is going to shape tomorrow. You can't give half effort and expect 100% results. It all, actually, I use the word cause and effect. Actually, the last few weeks, that's what's been the topic of the conversation, is the cause and effect. So I think as parents, it's part of our duty to help shape that for them. But if we don't know, then it's hard for us to teach them that. So that could even be the karma too, where we're making the unconscious choices, and then the kids are reaping the benefit of those unconscious choices until we become aware to help them see different. That's that's all I've got.
I agree too. And I think it's part of the reaction, right? So you're being bullied. How are you reacting to the actions that are being taken toward you? And that can decide how things continue, right?
We only have, go ahead, David. We have 8 minutes left. Go ahead. And I have one more question.
I didn't mean to take up any time, but I have been listening. I like what you said earlier, Camille, about the negatives and the positives, because the universe is full of both of them, whether you call it yin and yang in the Asian, or up and down, good and bad, you know. I think when you're dealing with kids, you're always thinking of the innocence and protecting someone who doesn't know any better, and even both kids, the bully and the one being bullied, right? But when you go back to the universe, and what I know of Chopra is that first video that we watched, where we're all stardust. So even if you plant a seed, you got to push it down for it to grow. So that's what I think of when you explain karma like that. If it doesn't kill you, it'll make you stronger. So I told this story before. I heard a comedian describe the need for the bully in school so perfectly, like, because it just sets you up for the real world. Not that you actually need a bully. No one's going to really write a whole book about that. But when you come out of school and you've never experienced true life, or some street smart people will call it, you never experienced streets, and you get out there and your boss talks to you a certain way, are you going to break down and cry and run home and quit the job? Maybe that's what the person wants, right? Or are you going to have experience in that? You're just stardust, growing, pushing up the earth and becoming stronger with every event, good or bad, the compliment, the insult, so forth. That's what I take karma as. Go ahead.
Thank you, David. Actually, I think we could wrap up now. It's been about an hour. So thank you for all of the insights and the inputs. We're going to do this again for the next 4 Sundays in the after hours. Chapter 4 now is called The Law of Least Effort. That's what we're reading on our own this week, The Law of Least Effort. So thank you to the readers and the participants. Great discussion.
I know you're wrapping up. If you want to continue recording, you can, or if you want to stop. But your last question when it comes